Hello, this is Probable Loss, and this is episode number 7. Episode number 7 of the BM Beatdown. And I have a really great game here. Probably one of the better games. And you're going to see why that is in a few moments. But first, I'd like to say a few changes that I'm going to be making. I am going to start to be linking my email in the description tab of these videos so that people can send them in. I'm also planning on altering the theme and all sorts of stuff to my actual channel now that I know for sure that I do want to be casting, and I do want casting these games to actually become a part of who I am and what I do with my life and all that sort of thing. It's not like that's going to be my career or anything. I'm pursuing pharmacy, so definitely not going to drop that, as there's a little bit of money in that field, just a bit. Another thing that I want to get people's opinions on, I know most of these videos barely get 50 views, but those of you who watch it, if you could leave a comment in the section, I guess the comment section, that would be great. I'm curious to see what people would think if, I know a lot of people, they get overlays right here to cover up this bar. For me, just closing this so that people can't see the time has worked. People haven't really complained about it that much. I also know that a lot of people will get little things right here where you can see the actual person casting. I'm looking into getting a fairly expensive webcam, but I actually wasn't planning on buying it until later, because when I go to pit, my girlfriend will still be around these parts, and we're a good 4 or 5 hours away, which means that can't really talk to her that often, so I'm going to be trying to do Skype conversations with her, which means having that video camera, webcam, whatever you want to call it. I will be able to project that, and I want to know if I should get that sooner rather than later so that I can do these games where you guys can see my faces. I think that would be especially cool in the Amnesia videos, because then you can actively see me freaking out. But so far, we have seen not too much action, although Maverick is just now going to be putting down a bunker. Putting down a bunker on a Zerg who does a hatch first is really, really standard. Now we're going to see who BMs out of this. A lot of Zerg players will call the bunker rushing cheese. Even I'm a Zerg player. I don't really call it cheese. I just call it someone trying to punish an overly greedy opening, and it's actually not that difficult for a Zerg player to stop. So we're gonna see who starts the BM. This bunker rush is actually not very good. There's only one Marine so far, and he's brought up 2 SCVs, and he's had to stop construction on the one bunker. But the drones are gonna miss the other Marine. That's gonna be a huge mistake, because now there is at least one Marine in a bunker, and even though it's one Marine, Marines deal pretty good DPS, and now that Marine essentially has 445 health, he has a lot. Maverick says too greedy. We're going to see if he ended up being too greedy or not. So far, it doesn't look like he was too greedy, because Maverick is sort of failing right now. Not able to get repairs, although he was able to lead some of those SCVs on a chase, which kept them away from that bunker. All he really had to have done was just kind of surround the bunker, and then the SCV wouldn't have been able to repair regardless. But then he lost enough lings that it wouldn't have mattered. He's going to be able to pick off that SCV, which means no more bunker repair. If we check the income tab, we can see that Maverick back at his base is doing nothing in the ways of macroing in any form ever. Because macroing behind a bunker rush is OP. This is a very well-known fact. Linku Baku is, I think he's doing, I think the best response you can possibly do. I think he knows that the bunker is not shooting that, so he's gonna drone up, he's gonna macro up, he's gonna tech up, he's gonna do whatever he can do to get rid of the threat that is currently at his base. Hopefully not losing the queen. He might lose the queen. Losing that queen would be a really huge loss for him. It hasn't gotten enough larva injects off yet to really, pay for itself, and it doesn't look like it's going to. Oh my gosh, this is so tense. How is that queen still alive? The queen is going to go down right here, I think. There goes the queen. That is a huge loss. As you can see, Linku Baku has a huge amount of minerals stocked up, and he is going to spend that all on Zerglings to try to get rid of these. Maverick is finally starting to do something resembling macro. And I really need to bash on him for this. He says, too greedy. And then he proceeds to bunker rush into expand without doing anything like getting up adequate defense. So, I mean, he's facing this. If this were to actually just circumvent the barracks, he would lose because he's trying to expand. He has no backup plan so far. His backup plan is to hope that I've been saying his name wrong the entire time, and probably different at different times. Linky Bungu. Yeah, him. If he were to decide to circumvent that, he would just, go in and destroy everything because he doesn't have a backup plan. And right now he does the old bunker swap, which is actually a really good strategy. And it is going to now take a considerably longer time to kill. With some good roach micro, he might not lose any roaches, and he ends up not, even though he could have picked off those last 3 Marines. But now we see that Linky Bungu, still at a harvester advantage, still has tons of minerals stocked up, and he is going to be in a really good position because he had such a worker advantage for a long time, despite the fact that he was bunker rushed. You can see that he has lost more, but if we check the spending tab, he has also spent considerable amount more than Maverick has. Maverick is just, he's trying to tech up rapidly, and he didn't even land this expansion yet, despite having it for such a long time. Really, this is just looking really bad for Maverick. Linky Bungu, at the moment, has exactly double the supply, now has slightly more than double, now slightly less than double. I could go back and forth counting the supplies all day, but that's a bad idea. Checking the army tab, we see that Linky Bungu still has a significant army advantage, income advantage. Does he have the APM advantage? No, he does not, proving that Zerg is OP. There is no possible way that in any circumstance can you lose with a lower APM unless the other race you're playing is OP. It has nothing to do with the fact that your macro is awful and that your micro involves spam clicking your Marines everywhere to move them from bunker to bunker, and your horrible decision making, like putting a bunker right here that is within range of exactly nothing. Although I should really ask people what league of play I'm watching, because it seems like Linky Bungu has a pretty good idea of what he's doing, but Maverick is just like, he's playing sloppily. He does a ridiculous bunker rush that accomplishes next to nothing. Doesn't punish the expand at all, doesn't really kill that many workers. Kills a few workers, but that's because Linky Bungu had to pull them off and then defended successfully with them. And I think Linky Bungu is following this up about as well as a person can. I mean, because he did not go for a timing push right after he crushed that bunkers, which he could have, right after he crushed the bunker rush, right, which he could have done easily, could have just walked straight through. He played it safe and just macroed up using the lead that he already had, and he's just making that lead further and further. In the ways of tech, we see that Linky Bungu has just put down a spire, so he's going to be getting Mutalisk soon. He's just now getting armor upgrades for those roaches, but no other upgrades are on the way. At least no other ground army upgrades are. We have Burrow, Metabolic Boost, and the Glial Reconstitution, which makes those roaches a heck of a lot faster and a lot more deadly towards those Marines, and even the tanks, if the tanks are unsieged. Maverick does have siege mode, but isn't sieging, which is really curious to me. This is a pretty popular spot to put your siege tanks on, and this wall-in is the most nonsensical thing I've ever seen. So again, I have no idea what league of play this is. Linky Bungu doing fairly well on the macro. So is Maverick, but Maverick's build order, build style, his decision-making in general seems very, very poor. He's taking a hidden third, which I think is a pretty good idea. I think that he can infer, or at least guess, infer being kind of a fancy word for guess, could probably know that Linky Bungu is probably going to be transferring to Mass Roach because it's fairly popular, and he saw the Roach tech. Normally, if you're going to go Ling Bane, you don't bother getting that Roach tech because you're not going to need it, you're not going to use it, anything like that. But he does still decide to build a Reaper, and the Reaper is pissed at that Roach Warren. The Reaper accomplishes absolutely nothing, so that is really bad for Maverick. Maverick, he may have been trying to scout with that and then realized, well, shit, that didn't do anything. And now he's going to try to throw down a scanner sweep. It is also 15 minutes, and we are just now seeing an engineering bay for turrets. So Maverick just playing horribly, overall, as Linky Bungu is doing pretty well for himself. Even getting some creep spread down. I would say that this is maybe gold level play, maybe high silver, because both players are doing fairly well on the macro. They have somewhat standard build orders. They're just a little bit behind on what they should be doing. For example, it's 15 minutes and the Zerg player is just now taking his third base and is just now getting up some adequate creep spread. So a little bit lower league play, but still pretty interesting. Pretty interesting to note that Maverick is doing pretty poorly, but he is going to siege up outside the Linky Bungu's base, which is really, really powerful against Roaches. Roaches are awful against siege tanks. Roaches they don't bunch up quite as badly as Lings, but they take extra damage, and they still bunch up pretty well. I mean, as you can see, almost kills 2 Roaches just by doing that, but the Roaches do have Burrow, which means that they do have rapid regeneration, which forces the scan because he knows that they can Burrow, and the Roaches completely ignoring the Marines. The Roaches with that 2 armor are just going to be able to soak up the damage from the Marines very easily. Decides to ignore the tanks for now, instead just going for the Marines. Very, very good play there by Linky Bungu. Excellent choice in upgrades. Choosing the armor was such a better idea, and then Maverick is raging about it. Linky Bungu pretty much had you not hard countered, he had you soft countered, and he even had an upgrade advantage in an upgrade slot that made a huge difference. And then he's saying how strong tanks are versus Roaches and how poorly executed that was. Oh, he's upset. Although he did make a happy face, which begs the question, is he really happy? Linky Bungu forcing a scan, which just wastes more energy that could be used on mules. Maverick has unnecessarily taken all the SCVs off the natural. Not too sure if that was from a Mutalisk threat or what, because I do know that before that big engagement happened over here, some Mutalisks did come down here to do some harassment. You can actually check how many workers were killed. The Mutalisk harassment was actually pretty effective, killing 12 workers. I guess that wouldn't include the 2 that died at the beginning because of that fail bunker rush. But now we see Linky Bungu. He's just going to do a little bit of a contain here to make sure that Maverick doesn't move out, which is a pretty good idea. Maybe able to pick off this tank here because it's not in siege mode. Don't think it was worth it, though. Although you have to consider that, I mean, he does have such an income advantage and really an army advantage overall that he can kind of lose these units to try to pick off the siege tanks that are so powerful for Maverick. And an unburrow right now could be very good. There are 2 siege tanks right here that he could pick off quickly and easily, and he's going to go for it. Not going to win this engagement, but picking off those siege tanks is going to mean a world of difference. Ends up picking off 3 and then burrows again, keeping alive these last Roaches. Able to pick off a Marine here and there. Still excellent play by Linky Bungu. He is forcing Maverick to keep behind some Marines just to make sure that these Roaches don't cause any additional... Oh, and see, after the initial, several Mutalisks, you would think that, well, maybe, just maybe, I should start to think about doing something like putting up static defense. Yep. This. If... I don't know why the game's still going. Okay, I guess the Linky Bungu didn't leave. But, if by fag you mean superior at the game in comparison to yourself, then yes, he does play like a fag because he is doing much better than you. You macroed pretty poorly. I suppose I could say you did better than him, but your spending was way behind his because your income was way behind his. Your army was awful. You actually lost more resources in whole versus a Zerg player, which is really difficult to do. After seeing some initial Mutalisk harassment, you only built one turret here, built no turrets here, and then decided that sending all of your SCVs here instead of here was the best idea. So really... Oh, and this is happening. This guy may or may not have been mining. We'll never know. These guys are on their union-mandated work breaks, though. So are these Marines, union-mandated work breaks. Union mandate says that they must watch burrowed roaches for at least 10 minutes a day, if not more. Or the Terran Dominion could be caught under pretty hefty fines, really, for not following the union rules. And I'm going to try to end this up. I always have trouble ending these just because every time I try to end them, it's super awkward. So, beatdown. What's up?